We are halfway through 2025, and if you've been dreaming of your own homestead, it is not too late. I've got the perfect blueprint 6-month plan from now until the end of 2025 that will help you make those first steps on your homesteading dream and finally make the homesteading lifestyle a reality for you this year. I have to start this off by saying that I am in no way claiming that by the end of the year you can have 16 cows, a full dairy, 55 chickens, a flock of sheep and goats if you now live in an apartment condo. Let's be realistic here. But what I am saying is that with this 6-month step-by-step plan that can, by the way, be adjusted to whatever your homesteading goals and dreams are, you will be closer to your homesteading dream than you are right now sitting on the couch watching this video. For some, this might be finally starting that little windowsill herb garden that you've been talking about for so long. For others, it might be getting your backyard chickens or starting up that garden or taking your existing beginner homestead to the next level, whatever that might be. Having a blueprint, a map, knowing where you're going from where you're at right now is not only motivating, but gives so much clarity. And when we have clarity, it is so much easier to execute and turn those dreams into actual plans into reality. And make sure to watch till the end of this video because at the very end, I will give 3 specific examples of what this plan will look like in practice for 3 different areas of homesteading that you might pick so that you can get specific inspiration for when you're making your own plan. We are halfway through the year, and so this plan is starting in July and ending in December. But what I want to point out is that you can start this at any point. So if you are watching this video and it's a completely different time of year, you might have to adjust some details based on the location that you live in, based on the season that you're in. But so many of the steps that I will talk about, you can extrapolate and apply to whatever season or geographical location you happen to be in at the time. Month 1, July. Choose one homestead focus. This can be either your garden, preservation, chickens, growing herbs, getting a flock of sheep. Whatever it might be, start with choosing one area that you want to focus on. Step 2, gather basic supplies without breaking the bank. This means thrifting, Facebook Marketplace, or borrowing things from neighbors or friends. Never underestimate that, especially when you're starting out and you're maybe not even sure that you're going to stick with this one specific homesteading area for the long haul. Set up your space. This can either be a corner of your countertop, maybe clearing off a windowsill for where you're going to set up your herbs, but it might also be setting up your coop or designating a part of your backyard to the garden. This will depend on what you picked in step 1. And step 4, plant your first seeds or start your first steps on the project that you picked. Month 2, August. Start by documenting what's working and what's not working. Make sure to take those before pictures, even pictures of your tragic fails. They will either be beautiful things to laugh at later, or you'll be able to compare how far you've gone from where you started. I know it feels kind of cringe to take them now and it just feels like such a failure, but believe me, you'll be so glad that you have them later down the line. Next, research solutions to some of the challenges that you documented. This might mean watching YouTube videos, asking somebody in your community who's more experienced, maybe going to like a garden center and asking what might possibly be wrong with the plants that are not doing well, and so on. Then make adjustments. Whatever you learned from troubleshooting your issues, actually implement those tips. Far too often I've gone and researched what might be going wrong with the homestead project and then never actually put it into practice, which is why we have this in a designated step. Put it into practice. Fix those coop issues, change the watering schedule, change the fertilizer, change the feed, whatever it is, implement the change. And lastly, add one small additional element. Let's say that your garden is thriving. Maybe you want to add in some lettuce. Let's say the chickens are doing great. Maybe you decide that it is time to start a compost pile. It should be smallish, feel doable, and only implement it if the first project that you started is going well. Month 3, September, harvest your first success. This might be your one and only egg, or maybe your first tomato or cucumber, but whatever it is the first product of your homestead and it should be celebrated. Next, learn how to preserve that harvest. Even if you had just one tomato and that's not enough tomato sauce, go out and buy more tomatoes from a local farmer and learn how to preserve tomatoes and what the different ways of preserving them are, and also what your family actually enjoys. Because when your tomato plants go crazy and you do end up having pounds and pounds of tomatoes, there'll be very limited time for you to do this kind of experimentation, and it will be crunch time and it might get a little stressful. Actually, an advantage that you get this time up front to experiment and figure out what it is that you like and what it is that you don't like, so that when the time comes to preserve your own actual harvest, you already have all this knowledge in your back pocket and you'll just execute. Evaluate how everything is going, what you want to continue, or what your next steps should be. So let's say your chickens are doing great, but you realize that 5 chickens are not enough eggs for your family. Maybe you would like to double your flock. Well, you have to evaluate, is your chicken coop big enough for that? Would you have to get an extension or a different coop for the extra chickens? And then plan those next steps. It might be what you're planting in the fall. Maybe you want to start some garlic for next year, or maybe you are extending the chicken coop. October, my favorite month. Plan your fall or winter crop, or if you're watching this in another season, plan your spring crop. For the fall, this might be things like lettuce, spinach, or radishes that you plant in containers, or if you have a greenhouse, you can put it in the greenhouse. Prepare your garden for cooler weather. This might mean moving containers indoors, mulching your beds, protecting some other plants from frost. Once again, this hugely depends on where you live. Start planning your fall preservation projects. Even if the produce is not yours, let's say you have to buy apples and pumpkins, still plan what you'd like to make, whether you're making applesauce or apple pie or pumpkin puree, or you're drying herbs for winter teas. Plan what you want to do now. And lastly, start your winter prep for your chickens. This might be insulating the coop, maybe you're building a covered run, or if you don't have chickens yet, maybe you're planning on getting them in the spring. Month 5, fall harvest, November. Preserve your fall harvest. Once again, if you have to buy it, that's okay. Start really simple, freeze, dehydrate, and do some water bath canning. Fully winterized garden, that means clean up your garden, start the compost, cover your beds. Plan next year's bigger projects based on what you learned this year. Do not underestimate this step. If you get the planning stages right, the chances are the actual project is going to go much smoother when the time comes. And gather seeds for next year. Maybe you did some seed saving along the way. If you didn't, and that's totally okay because it's overwhelming to do all the things, order them from a catalog. And month 6, December, harvest your winter crops if you have any. Document your journey. So now is the time for your how it started, how it's going photo comparison. Plan your big 2026 homestead expansion. And lastly, celebrate how far you've come so that you can continue going. When you follow this step-by-step plan in 6 months, you will have mastered one homesteading area of your choice, added on one other, and potentially expanded into other areas as well. You will have solid plans on what you're doing next year, what the successes and failures of this year were, and what your one big expansion for the following year are. And now to what I promised you, 4 specific examples of what this plan can look like in action depending on what area of homesteading you choose. Let's go. Container gardening. If you chose container gardening, in July, you start with easy crops like lettuce, radishes, cherry tomatoes in containers. In August, you learn about watering, fertilizing, and dealing with pests naturally. September, you harvest your summer crop, plant fall lettuce and spinach. October, protect your plants from first frost, harvest continuously. November, grow cold hardy greens, plan next year's garden layout. And December, you harvest winter greens and start your seeds indoors for early spring. Chickens. Research local laws in July, build or buy your coop, and prepare the run area. August, get 3 to 4 young hens and learn the daily care routine. September, establish feeding schedule, learn about chicken health, and make sure that everything's running really smoothly. October, prepare a coop for winter, maybe get your first egg. November, winterize your coop, enjoy fresh eggs, learn about winter chicken care. December, perfect your routine and plan on expanding your flock in the spring or potentially adding on a compost or a garden. If you chose herbs, maybe you're doing apartment homesteading, this one's for you. In July, start with basil, parsley, cilantro in pots and on windowsills. August, learn to harvest properly, start drying herbs, maybe add rosemary. September, make pesto from your basil, dry herbs for winter cooking. October, bring tender herbs inside. Plant chives and oregano for the winter time. November, give herb gifts to friends. December, cook with your preserved herbs and plan a bigger herb garden for spring. And lastly, if you chose food preservation. July, start with freezing herbs in ice cubes, learn basic food safety. August, try water bath canning with high acid foods like tomatoes or pickles. September, preserve peak harvest, applesauce, salsa, frozen vegetables. October, learn dehydrating like apple chips or dehydrating herbs. November, try fermentation, sauerkraut, pickles, kombucha, and you could expand to pressure canning basics. December, enjoy preserved foods, plan next year's preservation goals. By the end of these 6 months, you will not have a perfect homestead, but you will have confidence growing at least one type of food successfully, knowledge of basic food preservation techniques, understanding of seasonal rhythms and planning, problem-solving skills for when things go wrong, and a collection of recipes to use with your homegrown ingredients. And that is it. All you've got to do now is pick your area and go for it. I believe in you, and what's more, I know that the satisfaction you will feel at the end of those 6 months, knowing that you're a little bit more self-sufficient, that what you're eating is a little bit healthier, and that you're a little bit more seasonally connected to the world around you, is going to make such a huge difference in your life. Thanks so much for watching. And if maybe one of the skills that you're thinking about picking for your 6-month challenge is starting to bake your own sourdough bread, I have the video just for you.